All right, we back with another podcast. On the podcast today with me today is Damian Mackey. Peace, brother. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm blessed to be on. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Oh man, I appreciate you, brother, for taking the time out to be a part of this.
Man, it's love. Whatever y'all, you know what I'm saying? I guess for me, it's just like it's time out on just accepting ignorance or accepting the status quo or just, you know what I'm saying, willfully saying, I'm gonna stay where I'm at and not gonna really fight to understand and stop fighting for a seat at a table and like let's start building our own house. You know what I'm saying? Let's create our own kitchen with the table and the table look like how we want the table to look. And so hopefully I can bring some value tonight, you know what I'm saying, to talk about my experiences and education in life.
Oh, you will. Oh, you will. Yes, sir. So let's do the whole background. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, I'm a California resident, Bay Area representative. You know what I'm saying? My father grew up in the Bayview in San Francisco. Look it up. My mom grew up in the Fillmore in the city. Uncle was a Panther. And so I kind of grew up in a way where, unapologetically handles minds, you know what I'm saying? Um, but whatever, that's not, so important. It's a part of my identity. But I think more importantly in life, my experiences are those that I just understood at an early age, like, yo, education is a big deal. And I was a knucklehead, you know what I'm saying? K through seventh grade, I didn't really care about school. It was what it was, and it wasn't what it wasn't. I chased chicks and was a class clown, the whole nine. But I love my mom. My mama's boy to this day. And so my mom went to a parent teacher conference and changed my life. I had a real teacher who had my back. Her name was Miss Bilkey. And she flat out told my mom, like, your son could be special. He's smart. He just don't take school serious. And so my mom propositioned me. She said, look, here it is. You still old enough for me to whoop your ass. She said, so look, you bring home another C, we get into it. If you bring home straight A's, I'm gonna pay you $10 an A. Mind you, the only class I would get A's in is PE. I was a PE. You feel me? I
Right.
get it. Long story short, from that point on, I became a 4.0 student. I have my own selfish reasons for that initially. Y'all got Six Flags wherever y'all at, but we got Six Flags near where I live. The season pass
Yeah.
cost $50. The bus pass cost $25. I started doing the math in my head, like, ooh, if I get straight A's, that's gonna pay for my pass plus my bus pass to get there. And that was the initial reason why I was like, okay, let me see what I can, let me see if I can get these A's. That became who I was. And to be honest with you, after a while, that was my identity. I used to go to my teachers and be like, yo, I'm gonna get an A in your class. It was important to me to see a young black male who, you know what I'm saying? I was gonna handle my business, be me and my skin, but I wanted to prove to myself and prove to others that I could be, that I could go ascend to my ceiling, to my capacity. And so uh man, that got me a lot of places. Played football in high school, got a scholarship. I'm an Oklahoma Sooner, so I'm a Bay representative to Oklahoma. Won a natty. A lot of my friends played in the league. I experienced some crazy things in my early 20s. Roy Williams, my best friend, he played for Dallas Cowboys, 5 Pro Bowls. We grew
Okay.
up together in Union City, California. Mark Clayton played for the Baltimore Ravens, wide receiver. That's my little bro. Tommy Harris played for the Chicago Bears. That's my little bro. Right. So that's my kind of squad from college. But I broke into education on accident. Shit, the 0809
Wait,
financial
what
crisis.
position did you play in football? Because you didn't say.
Wide receiver, number 13. You know what I'm saying? Did a little business. You know what I'm saying? You can go look and see. It's a few little things on there if y'all take a peek. But I broke into education on accident. I was doing some investing. I got a degree in business finance. So I went to college. I got hurt. I got my degree. Like, yo, let me get it real. Let me get my paperwork right. Got my degree in finance and was in some real estate. I was purchasing real estate in Texas. The market crashed. If you guys remember, 08, 09,
Yes, sir.
market crashed. I lost everything. And I was like, damn, what am I going to do? So I got a teaching credential, right? I got a teaching credential, went through a little cohort or whatever, and boom, I got into teaching in 2007. So I taught a year in Texas, moved back to Cali. And from 08 to 2017, I taught in just about every difficult district you could. I was a math teacher, where not a lot of math teachers look like us. and I experienced a lot. You know, I was able to promote and become an administrator. From there, I promoted to a high school administrator. And from there, I got to experience master scheduling. And I did my master's research on the impact of Algebra 1 on graduation rates, because I started to realize that Algebra 1 was a gatekeeper to actually graduating high school. Algebra 1 was a gatekeeper to cohorting students through school. And as an administrator over that math department, Algebra 1 was the most difficult position to hire. And so those three factors created an environment that obviously we'll discuss in a little more detail, that it 100% it'll impact your ability to have a successful high school experience. And so,
all right, let me interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
From your time in elementary school through high school, how many Black men as teachers can you say you had?
Through high school?
From kindergarten through high school?
0. Black men? 0.
Yes. You didn't have any Black men?
0.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Not even PE. 0.
Oh, wow.
My coach, football coach, I had a few, but like during the school day, Black men, 0.
Okay, continue on.
Yeah. So I spent 11 years in education total. I guess 12, 4.5 years as a teacher. I taught primary 1 year, 3 years in middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. And then I did a half year of algebra and algebra 2 at the high school. And then I got promoted to an admin. So I got promoted to a principal. I did 6.5 years as an admin, 2 years in elementary, 5 years high school, and saw a lot, experienced a lot. And again, I feel like parents need to understand how this system works and make decisions about what they're gonna do with their children as they matriculate through school.
So you kind of got to look behind the veil to see how the machine actually works in terms of I guess the placement, children's and young teens placement in the hierarchy before graduation.
100%. And it was on accident. I didn't even realize it as a teacher. When I was a teacher, I would go in my room, close my door, and deal with my 150 kids. Those were my kids. We're gonna bang this thing out. When I became an admin, my first role as an admin was discipline, right? So I handled a lot of discipline and addressed those issues. As I gained more experience, I got to do oversight with master schedule. And that is when I really started to be exposed to how school systems work. And by the way, it ain't to blame nobody. It is what it is, but parents need to know what it is, right? Community needs to know what it is so they can make wise decisions.
All right. So you're saying a lot of, you're giving us a lot of information, and it's kind of got my wheels spinning in my head, because I'm thinking about like the time where the family across the board started having both parents in the workforce. And then you have the parts of the community where there's a single parent, and that parent has to take on 2 jobs. You know, so not in most cases, but in a lot of cases that was, a thing. So a lot of the times the school system becomes more of a babysitter or just a sitter in general for kids. And the kids' interaction with the teachers may or may not be a parental type of exchange. It might be one of those things where the teacher is overworked and just dealing with all of these different kids, and the grades kind of determine who gets the most attention when needed, or the best amount of attention when needed. Because I would imagine, being a male in an industry where majority of your colleagues don't look like you, it's got to be a challenge as a teacher. You know what I'm saying? You're a Black male teacher in a school system, because you said you taught in Texas. Am I right?
Cali in Texas. Taught in Cali for 9. Well, taught or admin for 9, and then 2 out of my 11 were in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm imagining is like a scenario where a lot of your colleagues are probably the norm in terms of like what kids relate to, and then you show up and you're seeing things and you're being who you are and trying to give the kids what you imagine to be the best value in education, and it's probably coming off as like you're an alien in the room.
You know what we used to call them? You know what we used to call them? Unicorns. People would say
Yeah.
you're a unicorn. No, I'm
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
serious. They were like, you're a
Yeah.
unicorn. You're a black male who teaches math.
Yeah.
You're a unicorn. Yeah.
So a lot in a lot of cases, it's probably it probably was a foreign concept for a lot of people to actually receive. Parents probably not taking you seriously, or their kids not taking the education as seriously until you kind of like implement what you consider to be the form of structure and discipline that they're not used to, because majority of their education they've been taught by a specific demographic. So you kind of like shook things up and changed the paradigm a little bit.
Uh, yeah, I would say yes, but I would also say, math is a unique content area just because, listen, across America, that is the most difficult position to fill, and it is the most difficult position for kids to pass. And to be 100 with you, what I mean, and just keeping it a buck, whether I was a white woman or a black male, at the end of the day, admin, parents, community, school board, you know what I'm saying, district, they wanted the kids to perform because a lot of money is aligned and resources are aligned to standardized testing, right? So I think a part of my success had to do with my ability to establish relationships. I didn't have classroom management issues. You know what I'm saying? I didn't. So that wasn't something I had to spend a ton of time on. And I had a personal love for math. And so it was important to me to establish that kind of expectation in my classes. Being a black man was a plus. Being in a lot of urban school districts that were predominantly black and Latino, that's predominantly where I've taught my entire career. But listen, like you kind of like what you were alluding to, had I not had the ability to connect and deliver, they didn't give a damn that I was a black man, right? They wanted somebody who could deliver. It was a plus for me because I was young. You know what I'm saying? I was hip to what was, I was more connected to what was going on in the community. I knew some of their cousins, brothers, uncles, and stuff. I could be like, hey man, I'll call your cousin, like play with me. You know what I'm saying? There was a relationship that we were able to connect and have that other teachers wouldn't necessarily be able to authentically pull off.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Relatability. Yeah.
So as you traverse through this and you start to get a peek behind the curtain, when did you start saying that something, when did you start figuring out that something was wrong for you?
So my first year in Cali, I taught in South Hayward. South Hayward is I don't know if you guys have seen the videos, but South Hayward is a city that is it has a huge Latino community, and they bang hard. They bang, and there's a low-income African American community, and so I got into that school. My first year, I was what's called a probationary teacher, which means if you don't perform, they can fire you, no questions asked. Like you sink or swim. I came in, I took it serious, and I did well. My kids tested well. Classroom management was good. My second year, I was teaching they were remediation class. They're called intervention courses. So you teach the kids who failed. They have what's called a support class for no credit, and then they take the grade level class to try to pass. And they double blocked it. So you 2 hours with one teacher. Half the time is practice. The second half is you teach content. You teach grade level. Halfway through the year, I was teaching seventh graders and eighth graders. The school was seventh and eighth grade. I was teaching like both sections of kids who were being removed from other classes. And so the principal would come to me and be like, yo, Mackey, I got this kid, can you take him? And I was just like, yeah, it's good. And our community was dope. I'm not even gonna stunt. Like, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Like, in my class, they knew what it was. We're gonna handle business. We're gonna have fun. Look, we would be in class sometimes, and I would tell the kids, go research the funniest your mama joke you got. At the end of the day, we're gonna take 5 minutes, and we're gonna, within a respectable reason, we're gonna tell jokes. The kids look forward to that. You know what I'm saying? I have my little iPad. I'm like, hey man, we're gonna play some music. What music y'all like? I would put them up on the music I like. They would put me up on the music they like, and they have voice. So my class became an incubator for like discipline. It was kind of like in-school suspension, but without it being that environment. And so at that point, I started asking questions like, yo, how, they not on my roster, how are they getting credit? And so instead of having the kids in their double block class, that class where they weren't getting credit, they were coming to my class to alleviate some of the teachers who couldn't handle them right? And then the key reasoning to keep the kids on campus. And we'll talk about that because seat count. If you remove kids from campus, the school don't get paid for that kid. So schools have to keep kids on campus in order to keep their, it's called FTE. It's the full-time employment, right? So if you got 500 kids, then you can have 40 teachers. But if your enrollment drops to 450, guess what happens to your 40 teachers? You only get 36 teachers. So now 4 teachers got to be replaced, let go, whatever. So that is a really important aspect to the schools. They want to keep the kids on campus. And by the way, it wasn't a problem for me, but that was my first time being kind of like, yo, what's going on here? Right. My next year, I got promoted to assistant principal. So boom, I'm an assistant. I'm 29. I ain't even 30 yet. I'm an assistant principal of a junior high. And I start seeing how many other teachers were consistently sending kids out of class, right? And so this is right at the beginning of an initiative by George W. Bush called No Child Left Behind. And they had new math and English initiatives, right? So now I'm seeing kids who now they can take algebra in middle school. Some of these kids are never in class. The teacher is removing the kid every day. And as the assistant principal of discipline, right, it's my responsibility to intervene. Okay, what's the intervention we're going to create for this child? What are we going to do? Parents, community. Sometimes it was police intervention, kids with knives and things like that. So we're like, okay, how do we create not restorative, but how do we create non-punitive interventions for these kids that's not going to follow them throughout life? And so at that point is when I started asking questions around like, hey, what do we do with a kid who, you know, not to create excuses, but yo, we had kids whose parents got deported. Like their mom and dad literally were sent back to Mexico and they with an aunt or whatever, right? And they don't really have a lot of structure at home. They gotta, like, some of them are truant because they're working for the family because they gotta pay bills, and they're being punished at school too. So part of me is trying to understand, like, how do we address this, right? And again, I started asking questions and digging into research, and here's what I did. They said to me, they said, hey man, you can't keep your job unless you get a master's credential. You have to get an admin credential. So it forced me to go back to school. And that was when it really woke my game up, because now I had to go actually do the qualitative research, right? I had to go do the research on what was happening, state in, state out. And then I had to do the action research, which was survey districts, survey schools, survey teachers, survey community. And I was able to compile a bunch of data. And it uncovered a lot of things that clearly people don't like to discuss. But I just feel like community, parents, family, they need to hear these things because it impacts their children.
They should know. I wanna ask you a question. From your time in the school system, I've noticed that there are kids who do have to go to work. They have to have jobs to support their families in high schools because the parents are either strung out on drugs or whatever the situation may be. Are there programs, or do you know of programs that can help those type of kids out who are like working from like graveyard shift jobs or anything like that, to kind of like help subsidize or help relinquish some of that duty off of them so they can at least get an education later on throughout the day in the school year, or later on throughout the day, the course of the school day?
There are. It's not as big an issue in high school because labor laws generally 14, 15, you can get a job. 16, you can work 20 hours. Middle school, that you can't. Like,
no,
you
not
are
middle
not
school.
supposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so high school, there are options, right? Students can choose to do work home study, where they go to school once a week. They get a packet of information. They have one teacher of record who is their math, English, social science, whatever. And the school can sign off, their parents can sign off, and they can literally do school from home, right? It's a different gig. They get the credits. I've never had one of those go to college. Generally, that tracks to a junior college. So you're going to track towards going to a community school before you go on to a university, if that's the route you choose to go. But no, we've had kids who dealt with that, girls who get pregnant. That's another, right? They miss 6 months of school. They use that for teen pregnancy. And then they do have, or we have programs that allow kids to do work study where they literally, part of their credits was working apprenticeship at an auto body shop, and they could get paid. We had one where they were doing architecture, and they were helping people build homes. Like, it was dope, like really, really outside the box initiatives that provided students an outlet who needed to make income, participate in the family while completing their school requirements.
Okay. Okay. And I was listening to you when you say track, right? You're saying tracking. So it all depends on what you're saying. To me, what I'm hearing is it all depends on their ability to learn and the information that they're taking in. It kind of pushes them into a certain lane, and the school just takes it from there. Is that what you're trying to say?
So yeah, for sure. Right. I mean, your performance is going to track where you graduate. And if you are, a C kid, you're going to end up in general pop courses, whatever, right? You're going to have a general experience with school. What I specifically want to make sure people understand is Algebra 1 in high school. That tracking is not the same tracking that we're talking about in the scenario you just spoke of. That tracking is a cohort that you don't even understand and know that you are in. And I want to explain that. I want to create a scenario so you guys understand how this impacts a ninth grader tremendously. First things first, most states now, Algebra 1 is remedial in high school. And that's very important, right? It's important because when you're a 7th or an 8th grader, and by the way, it's not remedial in 7th or 8th, right? They want kids to learn at the level they're at. The goal is to get them through algebra in 8th grade. And I know why. It's not a bad reason, but the unintended consequences are terrible. So let's assume you're in a state where Algebra 1 is an 8th grade standard or requirement. And you might pass with a C minus. And then when you're doing course recs for your freshman year, your second semester of 8th grade, they'll ask you like, hey, do you want to take it again? And a lot of parents are like, yeah, they didn't do well enough and they only got to do 4 years of math. Let's go ahead and take it in 9th grade. When you enroll in that class, a couple things happen. I'm going to use a scenario. Let's say there's 100 kids. There's 100 kids. And of those 100 kids, 20 of those kids are going to do band. Of those 100 kids, 20 of them are accelerated, right? So they're taking algebra in 8th grade. They're going to be in geometry, right? Then let's say 10 of them are athletes. So 10 of those students are athletes, and I'll show you why that's important. And then that leaves 40 or 50 kids left. Well, when those kids go to the following school year, the 8th graders that are now 9th graders that were a part of your cohort as an 8th grader that are in geometry, they go a different direction. They are out of the equation. You don't have class with them, which means you're less likely to have English with them. You're less likely to have history with them. Well, you don't do social science with them. You're less likely to have it. Maybe a elective, but you're not in the same math class. Band kids. The band teacher only teaches band 2 sections. So if there's 4 math sections during the school day, those band kids have to both fit their band schedule and get their math requirement. So what do? They bundle them. They are a cohort because the scheduler wants to make sure he fits them in both 2 pots. So if 20 kids go from band and the class only have 28, there's only 8 seats left, right? So that crew is cohorted. They're out. You got the athletes. The athletes generally have athletic PE in the afternoon, right? So they are cohorted because they all have to fit into that window. So what happens is your 9th grade kid, who's a regular kid, right, ends up in Algebra 1 at a high school. There's only 4 sections. One of them is generally taken by the band community. Another one is taken up by the athlete community, right? Another section is geometry because you got the accelerated. There's 1 section left. So let's just say I don't know what numbers I have left, but let's just say 20 going to that course. Well, that class is a remedial class in high school. So guess who else fills the rest of that class? All the kids who failed it the year before. So the
Performers.
environment in that class, right, is one where a ninth grader might be in a room with 10th and 11th and 12th graders who failed that class habitually, are truant to school, have disciplinary action, a bunch of outside variables that ninth grader, their parents have no idea are also going to be in that class with them. The teachers know. The teachers know. So when you're a teacher in the math department, guess what's the last class teachers want? They want that algebra. They want nothing to do with it. So you know what that algebra class turns into? A breeding ground for sink or swim. They hire new teachers. That's the section nobody wants. That's the section new teachers get. New teachers get a section full of kids who have failed or are remediated or are truant or don't like math, mixed with some freshmen, and those teachers burn out. Those teachers burn out. And listen, it got so bad. I was over the math department. We were hiring teachers who could barely speak English.
I'm gonna pause real quick. Let me pause real quick. All right, pick that back up.
Yeah, so you get that population of students, and you have to remove the geometry crew. They took a section. You have to remove the athletes. They need to have 7th period or 6th period or whatever your period day is for athletic PE, so it limits the ability of sections you can put them in, right? And then you have to address the students who are left, right? You've got a group of 40 kids. They got to go in 2 sections. The class have to have 30. That means both sections are going to have 10 kids that are not 9th graders in those courses because the school only has 4 sections, right? And so, listen, that's not a teacher. Like, the teacher isn't the devil if they have those sections, right? The school isn't the devil if they have those sections, right? You know, no one is like intentionally doing this. This is an unintended consequence because a portion of the 8th graders took algebra in 8th grade and they are no longer in that cohort. Well, the school has to fill classes with a max of 28 or 29 or 30 or whatever the case may be, which means those math classes are mixed courses, right? So when you couple that with a class, by the way, this is not anecdotal. This is not just my personal experience. This is not my opinion. If anyone chooses to look it up and ask the question, what one class has the most impact on who graduates high school? You know what class it is? It is Algebra 1. And it's been that way for 20 years, right? This is not new. I didn't create this because I posted a video on IG. I thought a lot of people knew it. Algebra 1 is the gatekeeper to STEM. You cannot take advanced STEM courses if you do not pass Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is the gatekeeper to chemistry and physics. You cannot take those courses if you do not take Algebra 1. Congratulations, you can't go to college, right? Like, college is out if you don't take those courses. Algebra 1 is remediation in most states. So even if you take 4 years of math, let's just say you go Algebra 1, Geo, Algebra 2, Pre-Calc, your counterparts and the kids who were not in remediation all over the country did geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, calc. Who's more attracted to a college? Those kids. Again, it's not like you did something bad. Parents just need to know this, because an alternative is a parent can say, hey, I want my child to take algebra in junior college. It is now lawfully available for high school students to take online algebra, junior college algebra. And the reason I was very adamant about that, on IG, that became such a ridiculously polarizing topic, is because I know the environment in a lot of those 9th grade classes when you've got an innocent 14-year-old kid walking into their first year of high school, and it's a high stakes course where if you don't pass it, you're in trouble. I want to control what I can control, and putting my child in the best position to be in an environment that's inviting to learning, right? I want my child to have the 8th grade teacher who they're happy to do in algebra. And you've got 13-year-olds who are excited about high school versus the 9th grade teacher who is probably brand new or burnt out Or again, there might be a language barrier, there might be a cultural barrier because you can't keep teachers on those sections over time, right? And then you got 16 and 17-year-olds who cut up and do all those different things, right? And then so you pass, but all your friends passed. Do athletes stop being athletes? No. So guess what happens with them for geometry? They're cohorted for that too. The band kids stay in band. They're cohorted for that too. The kids who pass geometry, generally your failure rate is very low because they're grade level. Those kids are cohorted to algebra 2. Boom, your geometry experience is another class where you're in 10th grade and you got some 11th graders, some 12th graders. So you're cohorted, right? And so I think people get confused with school tracking. Yeah, school tracks data, they track attendance, they track discipline, they track all that stuff. When I say tracking in this regard, it's about you are now cohorted with a group of students and parents don't even know. They have no clue that this prejudice, it's a prejudice. They have no clue that this prejudice is intact for their child, and they don't even think to ask questions.
You know what's crazy? You literally described my whole high school experience with the math thing, because that's exactly what happened. Freshman year, I took algebra. It was mixed. First of all, a new teacher. We had two teachers. We had two teachers in one semester because the teacher left before they even finished. And it was all the bad kids was in there, was 16 to 17. It was like, I'm sitting here like, wow, did you see Steinmetz High School in 19? Like, wow, that's crazy. Like, and then the whole trajectory afterward. Luckily, I decided to go art as a direction. So I just went to art school afterwards. So it didn't affect me as far as like, oh, I want to go to university and do all these other things. But had I wanted to do something different, that would have affected my trajectory even worse.
I had algebra 1 too. And I was with the knuckleheads. And it made it very hard to kind of like get your lessons and everything when they was in there acting wild and they were talking crazy, disrespecting the teachers and everything. So you kind of like follow the pattern of what they were doing because it was hard to kind of study and do the work that was in front of you because these dudes didn't care about that.
I find it to be interesting that you made all of those points because that was similar to my experience in high school, and it informed the way I raised my kids before they graduated high school. I got 3 kids graduated high school. My youngest just graduated this past spring, and the way that I raised them was me being a lot more hands-on with the homeschooling, the teaching. So when they did go to school, they had a leg up because I knew going into high school it was going to be exactly what you described. I came out of high school in '95, so to know that this system has not diverted from that is kind of scary to me. But me raising my kids and watching them go through it, my oldest son graduated high school with a football scholarship and an engineering scholarship. You know what I'm saying? My youngest son, he has his ADHD, but he still managed to graduate damn near with honors. My daughter, she just graduated with honors, and they all went into high school not having to worry about algebra 1 because I put it in their head, taught them what they needed to know, kind of encourage and inform them, hey, this is the way you circumvent the unnecessary struggles.
Yes.
Because these are things that you can't control if you don't know it's there. You know, but because a lot of parents don't have that foresight, a lot of them just don't have the information. You know, some of them don't have the time. Again, to the point I was making about working all the time and stuff like that. A lot of parents are so out of the loop when it comes to what their kids' educational challenges are because they got to provide, you know, because they didn't necessarily they didn't have the right experience in high school either. And then that also comes down to the question of what is the right experience in high school, because it's almost like it's a factory environment where they group us together and like teachers know exactly who their top students are. Those are the easier to teach students. Those are the ones that they know they're going to get the assignments returned. Those are the ones that are showing up. So that's low impact on the teacher. The ones in the middle are probably more challenging than the ones who don't show up at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, because I used to skip school when I was in high school. I know what that was about. You know what I'm saying? Hell, the teachers used to the teachers used to contact my mom like he's killing it when he's here, but he just don't want to be here. And I know in my mind also that as males we have a different capacity for learning and education than girls. We're not as receptive to certain forms of discipline. Uh, if you speak to us in a certain way, we kind of stonewall things like that, and that doesn't even account for like the things that are happening at home. You know, students show up to school, and that's just their get away from home stuff.
You
So
know, it's interesting that you say that because at school, listen, and I'm by the way, I'm guilty of this. So a lot of people came for me on IG, and it's good. I'm gonna keep it $1.25 with inflation, right? We can't keep it $1 anymore. We gotta inflate that thing. But we knew who the kids who were going to be trouble were, and we did the best we could to keep them away, whatever. But listen, it's a zero mass situation. What I mean by that is like at a certain point, the school gives up on that community of people, and it's like, okay, how do we just massage through the year, right? And you know, it's kind of like the greater good, right? Like, hey, we got 97%. I was at a school with 4,000 kids. James Logan High School, 4,000 kids. So imagine you got a school with 400 adults on campus between teachers and parents, right? We had 10 principals. There were 8 house principals, assistant, and school principal. Like 3% though. What's 3% of 4,000? Right? Like 1% of 4,000 is 40. So 3% is 120. That's 120 kids. Like that's a lot of kids, right? How do you navigate that? You know, and so you got to make tough decisions. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like I'm not proud of every decision I made as a principal. I can say in full fidelity, I did my very best as a teacher. If you come for me as in my teaching, I'll pull 100 kids who are now adults because I taught, you know, most of my students are now 25, 26, 27. They'll bang on you. I guarantee it. If you try to come for me as a teacher, I ain't got to say nothing. 100 kids will come for your neck. As an admin, again, I didn't say this earlier, but I walked away. I walked away in my 7th year because I finished my master's in 17. And when I finished my research, it was very clear, like, hey, there's some very easy, not easy, but there are very clear solutions that if we really focus on these 3 deals, we can have huge impact, right? And number one, this is what I think is the easiest way to alleviate this problem. The reason it's very difficult to hire math teachers is because most states' content area credentialing program is extremely difficult. To teach Algebra 1, you have to know like Calc 4. You have to like literally, and it's not just like, oh, solve this problem. You gotta actually show the algorithm behind how you got to it. It's extremely difficult. It is extreme. Don't ask me how I passed. I don't even remember how I passed. Like to keep it 100 with y'all, if they asked me to do it today, I couldn't do it. And it's math you'll never ever use unless you're a mathematician, right? So that pushes, I would say 80%. I know so many people who could never teach math and they would just do social or do English or whatever because they couldn't pass the test. It to me, the simple fix is you take math into basic and advanced. And you take the classes that are graduation requirements, which are algebra, geo, and there's an algebra 2 without trig class that you can take if you're not on a college track. Colleges don't accept it as a 3rd year, but graduation does. And that should be a separate test that say, hey, I want to specialize in those classes. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to teach Calc 2, A, B, B, C, whatever. And you'll get a larger pool of people. I saw in 7 years as an admin, except for my year in Texas. By the way, I was in Texas at a school called Cedar Hill High School, was 93% African-American. Every administrator except one was Black. The police chief was Black. If you walked in Walmart, everybody was Black. I mean, different kind of situation. You know what I'm saying? It was dope. I liked it. Aside from that school, I saw 5 Black applicants in the math department, men or women, right? Caucasian, it was very few. When a middle-aged or a of age 25 to 45-year-old Black or Caucasian hit those job recs, it was a free-for-all for who could get them because it was so difficult. Most of your math teachers are, again, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm not trying to be, have no type of racial bias, but it's East Indian, it is Asian, and they have, sometimes they come with accents and language barriers, serious cultural barriers, right? Again, you talk about Algebra 1, which you guys all said your experience was mixed class, knuckleheads, and imagine you, and I feel bad for some of these guys because they're good people, but they come in, they got an accent, they dress different, they're just different, expectations are different, they have zero classroom management, they get banged on. Boom. Like you said, boom, they gone. That semester, they gone. They done ran to another school. Now you got a sub for 3 months till you get another teacher in, right? Now you got a teacher who's on an emergency certification, who's really a science teacher or really a social science teacher. So you're not getting grade level. Like it's a system.
Yep.
It is the system. It's not a teacher's fault. It's not even in a lot of areas school faults, but here's what schools do. Schools say, I'm mad at this teacher. Oh, I'm giving you 2 sections. So now you got a teacher who didn't want it. The school mad and the admin mad at the teacher. Now the teacher mad at the admin. The teacher they don't care. So when you got an attitude and y'all throwing paper, the teacher goes sit at their desk. The teacher said, I ain't about to get emotionally, you know what I'm saying, upset with y'all. Go ahead and act the fool. I'm gonna go over here and check Facebook or whatever they do.
Right.
And guess what? If that teacher's tenured, by the way, this is another beef. We need to expose this. Parents need to know this. There are very few states that are not unionizing teachers. Do you know what happens when teachers get unionized? Y'all know what happens?
They get
Y'all know what
protected,
happens?
right? They're
Listen to
protected,
me.
right?
By the way, this is anecdotal. So I hadn't pulled the data yet. I will though. I'm that guy who's gonna go pull the data. But let me just tell you what happens when teachers are unionized. They can flirt with your daughter. And it can be proven that they flirted with your daughter. And if they didn't cross the line of criminal, guess what? They can't be fired.
Oh.
They could sit at their desk. They could sit at their desk and you can reprimand them. You can write them up. You can, you can do everything within the ed code that says teachers are bylaws that they have to do. They cannot be fired. You can say they are not suitable for my campus. So guess what happens the next year?
I'm not gonna blow nobody up. I'm not gonna blow nobody up.
Teacher.
I'm not gonna blow nobody up. But when I was in high school, there were quite a few young girls that were messing with teachers. And gym teachers. Let's be specific.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And Chicago's teacher union is notorious for everything he just described.
Yo, I love this right now.
Listen, I'm gonna take it a step further. I gotta take it a step further. There's one more step I gotta explain to you guys. Unless you can produce, so we had a teacher sleep with a student. They were sleeping with a student during school hours, but we caught them during Christmas break. Admin was on campus doing what we was doing. We saw the teacher pop up, and which not abnormal. A teacher during Christmas break, they might be doing what they're doing. But then we saw a student pop up. Like, why are you here? Ain't no way in heaven a kid is on campus, and sure enough, they were meeting up to do their thing. He got fired. He was literally sexually involved with this student, and it came out that he was sexually involved with her during school hours. She was a senior. She was 18. Ladies and gentlemen, he did not go to jail, but he was fired.
And I'm not surprised.
I
know about some teachers that got some girls pregnant. Go ahead, keep going.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, I didn't experience that so much.
Yeah.
But here's what I experienced. I'm a teacher. I know my colleague is shitty. They suck. And by the way, they know they suck. Everybody in our department, when we meet, they just chill to the side because they can get reprimanded, but they're not getting fired. So they kind of like, everybody knows I suck. I know I suck. I'm not tripping, right? Admin writes them up. Again, this is anecdotal. This is my experience. I want to make sure I clarify that piece. We write them up. We intervene. We watching their class. We doing what we're supposed to do, or they're doing what they're supposed to do. The same teachers in that math department who are like, this teacher sucks. Admin puts them up to go to board. Guess what those teachers do? They support that teacher because the union does not want to set a precedent that teachers who do not perform get reprimanded. So even if I'm a teacher and I complain about my colleague in PD and prep hour and
still gonna protect them.
When it comes down to it, and you in that union, they protecting you because they cannot set a precedent that says teachers will get penalized as a part of that union. And the pressure from the union, from the friar reps is what they're called, that are representatives on these campus is very, very high. And so that's why I say, like, you know, there are a lot of people saying that's not true. It's true. If you don't commit a criminal act, the union is going to protect you. The worst that can happen to you is they move you from school A, they move you to school B, and you become someone else's problem. And we gotta be honest about that. Like, we can't sugarcoat it. You know, people like, that's an exaggeration. It's not an exaggeration. When
Same thing happened with police unions.
100%,
The exact same thing. Yeah.
exactly the same. Exactly the same. You can be negligent, you can be irresponsible, you can break all the laws, but if you don't do something that'll put you in jail, the police union is going to protect you. And the same thing happens with teachers.
It's a dangerous game. But my perspective on it, my just based on my personal experience, anecdotal, when I'm viewing it, is that it's all set to maintain a certain level of programming. They know that if there's an impossibility of a classroom of 30 students, all of them are going to be at the exact same level. I mean, I guess the odds of them all being at the exact same level is pretty low, right? So that the system is designed to filter out the weaker links and prepare them for menial work, get them out in the world. You're going to have a bunch of cashiers come out of that. You're going to have a bunch of guys who maybe go to trade school or something like that. A lot of women who go get their child care development degrees and stuff like that. So they work at nurseries and stuff. You know, this is like the standard. So you get the 1% of all of those will go on and become entrepreneurs and actually start forging their path through life, where it has nothing to do with the education, but more about their tenacity. And the rest of them, the ones who remain, are the ones who we see turn into doctors and get jobs in these STEM fields and do these things that are kind of a little bit more, I guess, useful to the overall society. And I'm thinking what's really changing all of that, though, is because now we live in a social media era. Kids are not looking at a long game. They're looking at the quickest path to money, not necessarily long-term success, but money. So you got a lot of these kids want to be streamers. They want to be influencers, you know, rappers and stuff like that. They're not.
Can I speak to that? Can I say something about that? Because I think there's something, you hit a point again that I think is extremely prudent that we need to make sure we don't miss.
All right.
I'm gonna describe something to you, and at the end, I want you guys to tell me what it sounds like. All right, you ready? You start on Monday. You start on Monday and you end that Friday. At 12 o'clock, you get lunch. All right, and at the end of it, you get a gold star, you get an E, you get an A, right? You get a grade. That's primary.
You get a check.
That's middle school.
Like getting a check. Yeah.
You get to high school, you start on Mondays, you end at Fridays. Lunch is at 12. At the end of high school, you're focused on a GPA, right? GPA is the scale that lets you know where you stand versus everybody else. Boom, you end up in college. You end up in college. In college, you go through the same deal, right? Monday through Friday, a little more flexibility there. You don't necessarily have a lunch hour, but you fit lunch in. But at college, you want to do what? You want to get a degree. You know, that tells you from the age of 5, we are being programmed to work for money, because your degree is associated with getting a good job so you can make money. And so what you're alluding to is, and by the way, this is why I walked away from education. I walked away from education because, like you said, I went behind the veil and I saw a lot of what was happening, and I saw the results. I pushed kids to college like I was the number one. You got to go to college. And I feel bad now because a lot of those kids went to college, never finished, got student aid. These financial aid. These kids, imagine they went and got financial aid, didn't finish college, yet student loans. That's a cold business, right? And so I said, God dang, I gotta stop doing this. So I said, what if I stop, working in a world where we teach people to work for money? Let me transition and teach people how to make money work for them. So the last 5 years, I've started businesses and I coach individuals, and my whole space now is like, okay, if I could teach kids Pythagorean theorem, if I could teach kids the distance formula, if I could teach kids the quadratic equation, I should be able to start teaching community how to protect, save, and grow their money and use it as an asset and a tool versus an end point. And so, you know, that is where I have been the last 5 years. And it's crazy that to hear you say that, because like I didn't even know how to conceptualize what I was feeling, but I was like, this don't make
Right.
sense. All I'm doing is perpetuating a system that I know is broken. Like, why am I continuing to push college? Which college is dope if you're STEM, and if you want to create associations, right? If you want relationships with people who are going to potentially be friends and contacts
Business
as adults,
partners. Yeah.
yeah, that's dope. But like college, the first 2 years is a waste. You spending money
Mhm.
to do the same stuff you already did in high school. The general
Yep.
education stuff is a money scam. So neither here nor there. Let me get off my soapbox. To hear you say that, it validates, right? We're
Right.
programmed. The program is designed to teach you to go work for somebody else,
Yeah.
so their dreams can come true while you break your back.
I did some research a few years ago, just by passing through some stuff. Went down a wormhole pretty much in my
Yeah,
research and learned that just the way you described it is exactly was the way it was intended to be, because we were moving into the 40-hour work week. Post World War II,
yeah,
we had some scenarios in place where the government saw the capacity for making more money if you get more people involved. You know, women start joining the workforce. Not to say that women weren't working before, but it was more women in mass actually working, so that's more taxable wages. And it was like, well, how do we get more people to participate willingly? You know, so you create these scenarios, and where women are more incentivized to work than we are, because we do it because we have a sense of duty. It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. The way it's conceptualized in the modern era, it's not that old. I say about 60 to 70 years. So that's young, and in comparison. But the way it is now is like, women weren't allowed to. I'll use this. Women weren't allowed to sign for loans without a husband at one point in time. You know, until they start getting their education and they start becoming more valuable to the workforce, i.e., education. The matriculation rate for women started to explode. You know, you start seeing more women go to school. It didn't necessarily have to go out there and get degrees and be civil engineers or anything, but just to be able to I guess, keep the machine lubed up. You know, women are taking out these student loans, going to school and participating and stuff like that. Whereas men will go out and become skilled. We do more skilled labor work. So like I guess it's par for the course for us. You do have a lot of us who do super exceed some of those expectations, but for the most part, you got a lot of mechanics, you get a lot of plumbers, you get a lot of guys who work for utilities
Bricklayers,
companies.
plumbers.
Yeah, exactly. But you start seeing these new industries pop up, or new uses for industries pop up to kind of facilitate all of these new graduates, these people who can still get plugged into these different places to keep this thing going. Not only do they serve a purpose for these companies, but they serve as poster children for education. See, that person did it. You can do it too. You know, this person did it. This person runs a, a boutique. This person owns a boutique, or this person owns a barbershop. This person owns a hair care supply store. Things that are possible, but when you think about like what the value brings in a larger scale, nobody cares about that. All they care is the outcome. Nobody cares about the journey, and the school system kind of fostered that idea. Nobody thinks about the journey. That, to
yeah,
your point about algebra being the gatekeeper, if people actually understood how valuable and important that particular subject is, their kids would already be prepared before they ever even cross that threshold. But most people don't consider it because all they think about is uh, making money, not making money work for them.
man.
On your way out, Damian, did you try to change some of that, or did you just say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna bounce.
Yeah, I was a radical. I was a
Okay.
radical for sure. I was a radical, but I left on good terms. Listen, school is just like anything else. It's a corporation. If you produce
Yeah.
results, they gonna deal with you, and they had to deal with me because I could handle the kids no one could handle. The math department was the most difficult area of teachers to handle, believe it or not. And that was always my space, right? I was all over athletics, and so uh, I, I challenged. So my challenge on my way out was challenging the idea that there were math teachers who could literally I wouldn't say accost a kid, but they could berate a kid. They could silently fail a kid. They could lie to parents. The teacher would lie and say, your child didn't do this assignment. And the child, we had a parent teacher conference, and the student was like, here it is. You graded it. And no, you forged it. And, so we were able to, in that one instance, kind of like correct it. But the teacher's there. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how does this continue to happen? This is going to happen again. And so I took it to district. I took it to the Alameda County Office of Education, and was stonewalled. And so I was left in a situation where I was like, I kind of put myself on the line. By the way, admin are what's called at will. You know what at will means? They can fire your ass. They can fire you.
Yeah.
They can fire you.
With no cost.
If the community rise up against you, you done. If the parents and community say they don't have faith in the admin, you out of there. If the teachers say, hey, we feel like there's an unsafe work environment, we feel like it's a toxic work environment, you out of there. Granted, most admin are also teachers. So when you get fired, you go back into the teacher, and then you're protected with the union as a teacher. So I do want to speak to that. But all these conversations, it's teacher against admin. Good administrators understand how to be good stakeholders with their community, which is teachers and parents and students and so on and so forth. Bad admin, I work with shitty admin, but you can get shitty admin out of Dodge. It's not a difficult task. If the admin don't get the job done, the district might get you, the county might get you, the parents gonna get you, the teachers gonna get you. They can get you. Teachers, not the same. And so I always say, like, teachers and admin need to work together. Teachers and admin need to include parents in the conversation. And students need to be held accountable to expectations, but given clear instruction on how to do so, right? And so it's a two-way conversation. And if any way in that situation is unclear, I have a problem. So I had a problem with students not knowing how to advocate and parents not knowing how to advocate for their students, being stonewalled because the teachers union was so strong. Admin was scared to do anything about it, because if they did, then the teachers would go after the administrators. I wasn't about to be, walking on eggshells. It didn't make sense to me. No one cared. So it was going to be just a small change. It was going to be a blip. Whatever I was able to get done was going to be a blip. And maybe that sounds like an excuse. But at the end of the day, I was starting to learn about money, right? And so I'm like, okay, at the end of this, what are we really talking about here? And if I can't put my family in a situation where they're not consistently on a hamster wheel running in place, right? I can't do nothing to impact my community. And so I wanted to get myself in a position where I could be in a position where nobody could sweat me, and I could move and then help people in that space. So I made the transition, started my own business, and have since opened a couple other businesses. And I now have the ability to communicate with parents and families offline. My goal is in the next 3 years to start a school. Like that's the goal.
Congratulations. Congratulations early on.
Don't get a seat at the table. Go build your own house. That way you can customize your kitchen how you want, and your table gonna look how you want it to look.
Absolutely.
That's the space we need.
That's what we need to do as a community of Black people. We need to start owning the education, because they're not going to teach us. We already see what's happening in the southern states. They literally taking out critical race things out of history, like, and voting on it. That's wild. Like, literally, like, oh yeah, just take that out. And then what's going to happen with their kids generations down the line? They're going to think everything they're doing is okay, because they're not understanding what they grandparents did. Because we came over here like immigrants. Like, get out of here. They wild.
See that soapbox. That's a whole nother soapbox.
Yeah, I think that to the point you were making, that a lot of what I'm seeing on a community level is the lack of community, though. You know what I'm saying? We're kind of like, we're so stripped away from like from the mutual respect, component. You can't hold anybody accountable if everybody's, I guess, in bubble wrap. Everybody's emotionally in bubble wrap. You know what I'm saying? So the community component is so eroded that the education system doesn't have to work. It just has to be there. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have in certain communities, our community, saying depending on how much you earn a year, you're going to see a larger police presence by design, strictly because they know they've already given up on it. You know what I'm saying? It's the school to prison pipeline. You know what I'm saying? It's important though to note that when you have an educator that such as yourself who's seen behind the veil and actually can articulate and spread the information, disseminate the information in a way where it's receivable, you can really turn this whole thing around. But people just have to be receptive to it. I think that at this stage we are past like innovation as far as like things that mean something that inspire generations. Like for me growing up, hip hop was the newest big thing. Video games was the newest big thing. Cable TV was the newest big thing. You see
We
what I'm
haven't
saying?
had one
So
of those in a while.
like smartphones is just an extension of the cell phone. It's not that it's an innovation. It's just a computer in your pocket,
That's
and
it.
you see how people use that. You know what I'm saying? But that one thing that really inspires change. Schools used to teach us, which I always felt like it was like smoke and mirrors, where they would say shit like you could be anything you want to be. You know what I'm saying? That level of indoctrination could either inspire or discourage. Nowadays, it's not even that you could be anything you want to be. It's you are whoever you say you are. That's the mentality. So nobody. So if you plant that seed in somebody's head and they're too young to actually conceive what those thoughts and those words actually mean, they're going to move forward thinking that truly applies to them. So a person never feels like they need to do better. They feel like what they're doing it should be good enough because who are you to judge me? And I hear and see that all the time.
Damian,
We like
if you could tell the children and the parents right now a message, if you could send them a message to them about the school system, what would it be?
First thing I would say is this: on every campus, you wanna find your village, and on most campuses there is a village. And listen, that could be the janitor, to keep it a dollar with you, or that could be the yard duty, or the you know what I'm saying, the security guard. But you want to find your village because you want your child to have advocacy on campus, because you're gonna deal with adversity. The end. I've never seen a kid make it through without any adversity, and so um, that's one key. The second thing is unfortunately the squeaky wheel gets fixed. You need to be the parent. Let me give you an example. My son started sixth grade. All right, and y'all gonna laugh at this, but kid had straight A's and an F. Guess what class he had? His first year he's ever gotten grades. Elementary you get kind of grades, but first real grades. Guess what class he had an F in?
Jim?
Math. Oh, I'm livid, right? So I'm livid. Like, what the hell is going on? By the way, people was making fun of my son. Whatever, I ain't tripping. But come to find out, he's in middle school. They do a lot of work on Google Class. Google Class is a classroom, is a function of Google that they have for schools. And what was happening was my son would finish the work, and then he'd be like, "Dad, I'm done." And Mom, I'm done. Cool, bet, no problem. We'll look at it, we'll see it, look complete. No problem. By the way, I'm a math teacher. I'm like, okay, good. He did all right. Well, there was a function where you have to click submit. He wasn't clicking submit. And so 4 weeks into the school year, or 4 weeks and a month into the year, he got an F. Look, I don't play that. Like, again, to me, you gotta do that on purpose. And that's just not who he is. You know what I mean? And so we find out what happened. And the first thing I did is go to the principal and let her know my background, and hey, I'm gonna be involved. Dad is really involved. Mom is a mama bear. Don't play that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he
Right.
has a family who loves him. Let me just tell you what the result of that was. So obviously we corrected. He's got a B in the class, which I'm still not excited about, but he's been voted class representative. He's been asked to be in the school play. You with me? He, on the yard, he has a lot of advocacy. Like the yard dudes, people know him. Why? Because mom and dad took time to go meet the principal and let them know we don't play. And guess what? The principal is like, hey, he one of those ones we can't just silently fail.
Yeah, he's insulated now.
You did. Yeah. So now he's got a village on campus and we get the call proactively versus 9 weeks into the semester, you have parent teacher conference and the teacher is telling you all these terrible things. We get the call proactively. Hey, DJ didn't this, or hey, DJ forgot. Hey, DJ's got this project coming up. And now we're able to navigate school. So right, check that box. So again, find your village. It's essential. Parents need to be involved. And here's a sneak, or here's a hack. Do it right at the beginning. When you're a parent, you got a middle schooler or a high schooler. Uh-oh.
I hear it.
Do it at the beginning. First week of school. And I'm not talking about the back to school night. That don't count. Pull up on campus on a regular day and just say, "How I want to meet the principal. Can I sit down?" By the way, they will let you, unless the principal's super busy. Go meet the principal, shake their hand, let them know your name, and just say, "Hey, if anything happens with my child, can you do me the favor and let me know before it becomes a big issue?" Put that on them, because then they can't just pass the buck to you, right? It's a big deal. Very simply, email all the teachers. This is a hack. You can do it in 3 minutes. Email all the teachers, blind copy all of them so they don't know who else is getting the message, and simply say, "Hi, my name is Mr. Mackey. DJ is my son. If he cuts up, please let me know beforehand. I'll handle it for you. He'll be the best student in your class, I promise." Some will respond, some won't, right? You'll know what your advocacy is. The teach, "Thank you, I appreciate you." Like some teachers want that. And then you can kind of filter the teachers who, okay, how am I going to attack that teacher? Number 3, in my opinion, your student should be in some form of extracurricular, right? If your student is in an extracurricular, number 1, it cohorts them. It's priority. Extracurriculars get prioritized with scheduling. That's a big deal. Extracurriculars usually have grade mandates. That's a big deal. Extracurriculars generally provide more adults who have a vested interest for your child to succeed. So they are checking your child's grades and doing all these different things, right? So those extracurriculars provide a bigger community, a bigger village for your child. And then number 4 is, as a parents, we got to say at the end of the day, it's on me. Like it really is on the parent. The parent can have the biggest impact on students. Bad teachers is something that's out of their control, and you got to fight that. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one. It's a real hard one. But outside of bad teachers, even bad admin can't really impact your kid that much if they don't get in trouble. Bad administrators, you know what I'm saying? They become issues, but bad teachers, parents, you have to be involved. Read to your kids when they're 4, 5, and 6. Read to your children. Read to them, right? Make them read to you when they 6, 7, and 8. Make them read to you. That skill in itself, people can't. The average felon, there's a bunch of research. It's between 8th grade and 3rd grade. Any data report you pull up on the incarcerated individuals, none of them can read at a high school level. Which means if you get your child to a high school level, it's 1 in 5 chance. It's an 80% reduction in the likelihood that they will end up incarcerated. By the way, that doesn't.
I was told around the 3rd or 4th grade, if they can't read, then there's a good chance they're going to go to jail.
So there was a report in 2010, and by the way, this is fact. It's not. I didn't make this up 13 years later. This is fact. Prior to 2010, private prisons funded some by the government determine how many cells they're going to build based upon the number of kids who couldn't read in 3rd grade. That is a fact.
There it is.
Yes, sir. It is not my opinion. It's called the school to prison pipeline. It has had reform since then. So there are programmings and lobbyists and things in place to block it. But it is, in fact, our history, our truth, and it is still a deciding factor. Again, like for instance, I have a buddy, she's an attorney. I said, "Hey, pull the data for me." Her name's Marquita. I won't say her last name. She was like, "Oh, in the state of Texas, you know what it is? It's 5th grade level. The average felon in Texas reads at a 5th grade level." So there's some variation there, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if your kid can't read, they're more likely to have issues in school, and then obviously life after school potentially end up incarcerated.
Correct.
It's like a chicken farm.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like some of them become food for your plate, the rest of them become food for the rest of the chickens.
Yeah.
Man, this has been a great conversation, man. I've enjoyed this right here.
Yeah, it's dope. It's super dope. I appreciate you coming through, Damian.
Yeah,
Man,
thank
I
you.
appreciate y'all for having me. You know, I say in order to invoke change, you ain't gonna please everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of like, you know, stand on your own too. You know what I'm saying? Make
Correct.
sure you come with facts and realities. But I just be okay with some people having an issue and keep pushing them over. So you guys, what you guys are doing is dope. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure I could make it on tonight. And anything I can do.
Yeah,
How can you
I
be
tell them all the
contacted and reached?
time. I tell them all the time, facts over feelings, logic over emotions. You understand what I'm
Man,
saying?
Man.
Uh,
Go
man.
check out my IG. Go check my IG the last 72 hours and read all them damn emotions. You'd be surprised.
before you give out your info, you still need to speak on. Oh man, I hear the echo is so bad. I don't know why it's doing that. I want you to speak on what you're doing now to change the way things are working with you being involved in the financial aspect.
Respect. Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur now. In fact, well, see now I feel like I'm pitching folk.
No,
I'm not pitching nobody. I'm just
let's get it.
giving it to y'all.
Let's get it.
But the last 5 years, I've been in the insurance and finance space. Helped hundreds of people across the country get into in their respective space in the finance world and find success in different avenues of business. I do have a podcast, actually. It's called the Damian Mackey Show. It's about OU football, so it's a different side, you know what I'm saying? But we've had a lot of success in that space. And really just advocacy. I probably do 4 community workshops a week, meet with the parents of districts, meet with, you know, just community outreach and boys and girls clubs and so on and so forth, and teach basic money principles. And I teach high school articulation. Just, you know, parents who are kids in 8th grade, what are some things they can do to prepare their kids so that they can graduate with the least amount of restrictions as possible. I don't charge for it. I don't get paid to do it. I do it because I know it's a need in a lot of urban communities. And it's a passion project for me. I you know what I'm saying, I want to stay connected to education. And this is a way I can do it in a space where it's not gonna, you know what I'm saying, upset the turnip cart internally. So appreciate, you know what I'm saying, the opportunity to be on here.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm good with it. Whoever want to push back, just come with facts, not your feelings.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate this, Damian. Anybody else got any questions or want to add on?
I just want to say thank you for sharing your time and this information. And honestly, this is a subject that really needs to get exposed as much as possible because wow, just the way you described all 3 of us, a lot of our experiences is based on that, and it across the board, we all can probably have like similarities to our experiences based on that. It's just showing how true it is. So that's dope.
And it's crazy to know that not much has changed since I came out of high school, outside of maybe just the method in which, you know, they execute. I think they've become more efficient at executing it, you know, and establishing that funnel. Because that's what I'm looking at it as, like a funnel.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Audio.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying something and it didn't pick
No,
up.
I was just saying I agree. I was
Okay.
solely saying
All
I
right.
agree.
Well, we're gonna end it there, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another podcast. I'm getting a lot of feedback in the mic and it's pissing me off. But remember the mission statement when you're striving for greatness. God never puts you in the driver's seat if it's taken. Thank you, Damian, for being a guest on the podcast. I appreciate it very much.
Love, 100%.
Peace,
Yeah.
peace.
Yes, sir.
Peace.